be very jumbled, random, incoherent, but there's some things I wanted to say. And I'm cheating, I have notes. I wasn't as good as David and Zelda. I don't have more cheating. Andrea's not going to jump up. You don't know. She could.
No, you do that.
Hey, but they planned that.
I would expect me to.
It could have been on the way over here, but
Spontaneity is hard.
So, we're all here for a common reason. We're here to, celebrate Arnie's life. Many of us here saw him last weekend. And, everyone shared their thoughts about Arnie and, the common threads that everyone said that he was such a kind man. He was the happiest guy. He was always in a good mood. He was always happy-go-lucky. He was never upset. I never recall him upset all the years that I knew him. And he deeply cared about family. He was all about family. He was my brother, so we had an age difference of 22 years. And so we didn't grow up in the traditional brother relationship. He was already out of the house when I was born. He was already done college or had finished college. So he kind of wore two hats with me. He was my brother, but sometimes he was like a dad to me. My dad was much older. My dad couldn't do a lot of the things, that I would have liked to or wanted to, Arnie, every year he would take me to college, to Penn and back. He'd move me, so he'd drive the Vineland, he'd have that blue van, that some of you remember. And we'd load up the van, drive to Penn, he'd help me move
Running the van.
That would be in August, and then in May he'd come back and move me out, and my parents couldn't do that, so he was really awesome to help do with that. Some of the things I'm going to say are just some personal recollections of Arnie, just, some things you guys may know or may not know. But so my high school graduation was back in 1982. Mary and Arnie, their present to me was a dorm refrigerator. Now they're ubiquitous and so common these days, but back then that was kind of unusual. And there might have been a cold beer in there, along the way. So that was a great present. Arnie came up with that. He was very supportive of my basketball. When I was in high school, he would come to some of my games on weeknights, drive at night to come see my games. He would come to some of my summer league games. And he even, he came to my state Group 4 New Jersey semifinal game against Camden. It was at the Rutgers Athletic Center, in Piscataway, and he drove there. So my parents didn't make it to any of my games, but Arnie came to a lot of my games. And he and I had like this sibling rivalry with basketball. He was really, really good. And I would always, try to beat him. We played basketball in my driveway. And even when I was, in high school, I was okay. But even at 22 years older than me, if I was 17, he was 39, he was still winning. I never did beat him.
Oh.
He had it. He had it. For those of you who don't know, Arnie has the scoring record in Vietnam High School, at the old high school. Since he left, they built a bigger high school and all that, but at the old high school, he has the all-time scoring record there.
Are you serious? I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Arnie also played, he tried to play football in high school. My mother was against it, and one day he came home with a big, fat, busted lip. Somebody had hit him, with a helmet or something on a play. She cut that off.
in this picture yelling in Estonian or something.
Yeah.
We did a lot of things. Vineland High School and Millville High School, the next high school over, they're deep rivalries. The football rivalry is one of the oldest high school Thanksgiving Day rivalries in the country. And a couple of years I was in high school, I'd get tickets and Arnie would come down and we'd go to a Vineland Millville football game, and it was just fun to have him back. We went fishing together, you know, on the Gulf River
Aw.
in South Jersey, catch catfish and perch and everything like that. When Arnie and Mary were younger, and Rob and Mary were smaller, they would go to Ocean City, New Jersey, and they'd swing through Vineland, and they'd pick me up for the day, and we'd all go to the beach together, and those were, you know, nice to, I don't know if you remember that, you guys would pick me up and we'd go to Ocean City. So they always kept me in mind, and I really appreciated that. You guys may or may not know, when Andrea and I got married, he was one of my groomsmen, and it was a very difficult time for Arnie. Mary was in the hospital, and she had major surgery, and you know, it was a lot of discussion and thought that went into whether, you know, you shouldn't be away from Mary at that point. But, you know, I talked to Mary, I talked to Arnie, we talked at length, and he wanted to be at our wedding. So he was, you know, stayed on as our groomsman, and it was very special to have him there that day. Mary, of course, was greatly, greatly missed, and, you know, we certainly thought of her, but it was very special for Arnie to do that for us. Growing up, Arnie and Mary always hosted Thanksgiving, and it was just my mom and dad and myself who would go there every Thanksgiving. It just almost became routine. You know, they would host Thanksgiving. It was awesome. Food was great. The company was even better. We had such a good time. I know everyone here has probably spent time at their former house, and it was a great place to visit. It was like going to a resort. You know, they had a beautiful home, and they had, you know, yes.
Trivial Pursuit.
Pool and hot tub, and what I recall is Arnie, we always talked about sports. He was a sportsaholic, I'm a sportsaholic, and he had, at that time, the biggest TV that was out there. It was that rear projection TV. It was always so great to watch sports on that TV.
These guys
that
remember.
TV and that living room.
Yeah.
And
Like
even years
details.
later, when the lights were failing and the colors were off, it was a little blurry. It was still a great place to watch sports. I still look forward to it. And these guys know what I'm talking about. But I'm sorry, I'm just flipping through my notes. You know, one of the things that I always remember is Siri and Arnie had a very special bond. They were very, very close. And what struck me was they would have such commonality. They would go to like every high school reunion. Always. They wouldn't miss a
They
single
were
one.
so the same.
And then they'd get together and they'd compare notes, and did you see so-and-so, and what's so-and-so doing these days, and they had common friends, and they knew everybody, and everybody knew them.
I know.
In high school, my German language teacher was a dear friend of Arnie's. They were on the basketball team together. You know, one of my best friends in high school that I fished and cried with all the time, his dad and Arnie were really close friends. So it's like, Vineland's a small town, everybody knows everybody, and everybody knew Arnie. You know, everybody knew Arnie. You know, Arnie was really big into education with his own kids, but he was deeply interested in Alex and Maya when they were going through the college process earlier this year. And we would have interviews at West Virginia University and VCU and wherever. And Arnie would always call and ask how the interviews went, how did you like the schools, had they made any decisions yet, and he was just all, you know, very, very thoughtful that way, and I really appreciate it. And that was just earlier, you know, this year. I think there's several people in this room who know Trivial Pursuit was a big thing in our family years ago, and the Phoenixes here are all laughing. sibling rivalry. Somehow Arnie and I would end up on one team.
It would think it was male versus female.
Well,
Yeah.
And then Siri would be on the other team or the female side of it.
Yeah, it was a little unfair. Just saying.
Because of the sibling rivalry, we
Just
were
saying.
both up on Siri. And if Siri ever gave a
Siri's
wrong
answer is really.
and it was like really way off the mark.
It was pretty way off.
Would particularly make a point to remember it years after year. And so did I. Siri was, she was a team player.
She loved games.
She went with the flow, and she just really had a good heart and didn't hold it against us or anything. At the end of July, we were coming back from a trip to Maine, and we stopped in the Philadelphia area. Andrea still has family in the area. Her parents are in a nursing home, and we told Mary we'd be in the area. We'd like to see Arnie, and Mary arranged a little get-together with some of us that are here at a restaurant. And Arnie was doing well at that time. He sat across from me at the table, and it's one of my best remembrances of Arnie. We talked so much that night. We talked about everything. Talked sports and politics, and at the end of the night, I was telling him some jokes, some Estonian jokes. And I was telling him some Estonian curse words. And he laughed so hard at the jokes and the curse words, and it was just, I hadn't seen him that alive, that happy, as I did that night, and I'll always remember that night.
He also stayed up the whole night before, anticipating your visit. He did not sleep.
What's that? Half and half. My Estonian is better than Arnie's Estonian.
I would like to hear it. Can we tell the joke? Do you remember the joke? My dad's never cursed.
But do you really know what he's saying, Tony?
Except towards the end, he said bullshit a lot.
I think one characteristic
Bullshit.
that all of us know, he knew so much about people, places in the country. His job was all about traveling and interacting with, setting up contracts for governments, city governments, and everything. And no matter where you mentioned, if I said we went to New Orleans, Arnie knew everything about New Orleans. It was amazing how he had that knack. And he's met presidents. And Andrea and I and Alex and I, we live in Virginia Beach. One day he comes out and says, "Oh, I know the mayor of Virginia Beach." And he knew everybody. He knew everybody. His phone contact list or Rolodex must have been endless. He just knew everybody.
Yeah, I was thinking about sending maybe like a mass text to everyone on his list, but I wasn't sure who was on there because that's how many there are.
So I just want to finish by saying, Arnie's passing allows each of us to reflect on our individual relationships with him, and hopefully our memories of Arnie will help us get through tomorrow and days in the future where we will be missing his company. I want to thank everyone for coming, and I especially want to thank David and Zelda for coming all the way from Canada.
Yay!
We appreciate you being here, and I just want to say, Arnie, I love you. And in Estonian, we say, "Ma armastan sind." I love you, Arnie. Thank you, everyone, for coming.